Welcome to Ideas to Implementation, the podcast for women who have a business idea but feel stuck in a job. Featuring real women with real stories of how they went from employee to boss. My guest today is entrepreneur and business owner Leila Singh. So how are you, Leila?
I'm very well, Simone. It's lovely to see you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me here.
No problem at all. It's great. Thank you for taking your time to come and speak to us. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
So in terms of what I'm doing now, I'm a personal brand consultant, leadership coach and trainer. I'm an international TEDx speaker and a published author. And that's all come about in the last 5 years or so. So now I have a personal branding and coaching consultancy where I focus on supporting talented and ambitious career professionals, particularly people in sales who want to be more visible, they want to stand out more and make a bigger impact in their business, in their career and in their industry.
Wow. And so what did you do before starting your business? What job were you in?
I have a 25-year career. I started out as an accountant. So I qualified as an accountant about 20-something years ago. And spent about 6 or 7 years in finance. And then I did a couple of years in recruitment in sales and loved that. And then I moved into the technology industry. So initially kind of going back towards a finance type role. I was in corporate finance, so very different to what I had done in a treasury function. I was looking at asset financing, structured financing, working with banks and putting these structures in place for our outsourcing business. And then we got acquired by Hewlett Packard, and I then moved across into a sales executive role within Hewlett Packard. So I was there in that role for about 10 years. And then last year, so we're talking about 15 months ago, I decided to take the leap. Wow. And leave the corporate world.
And what made you do that? What was the motivation and what gave you the confidence to move? Because you obviously had a very great career. So. Yeah,
there was nothing about my career I'd say that I didn't like or that really grated me that made me feel, I have to leave. But the reason it all came about was, so about 7 years ago now, my mum passed away, and I'd spent a lot of time taking care of her because she'd been quite ill. And so after that, I just started to reflect a little bit as to what I was doing with my life. And I just thought, oh my God, if I just carry on doing what I'm doing, am I going to be satisfied with that? And something aside, I just thought, oh my God, no, that's not the right thing to do. And it's almost, that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that's kind of what happened. It was like a snowball effect, because I've always been into personal development, always read lots of books and practiced what I've learned. I started exploring neuro-linguistic programming and ended up then signing on to the practitioner course, just out of interest, nothing else. Loved it, had huge breakthroughs and thought, wow, I really want to be able to use this to help people. So I started exploring more. I then did my master prac and just found myself kind of propelled into this world of entrepreneurial space. I was going to conferences and things and discovered all these opportunities of what I could do and that other people do it. Because at the time I was kind of thinking, am I crazy thinking about, I could do this, this and this? But then I'd go to these events and I'd see other people doing the same thing. And so I got on board some coaches, mentors. I started learning or improving my public speaking as I joined a professional speakers academy. And that really moved me forward, I'd say, because that got me to sort of push me towards speaking, going to events, companies and delivering talks, presentations. Then I wrote my book shortly after that, Success Redefined. So that published in 2015. And then everything's just kind of gone on from there. So I started coaching people at work and getting great results with them and then having clients. And I knew at some point it would be a time to leave. And I wasn't really in a hurry. I just carried on doing what I was doing in and amongst my day job, which was a pretty demanding job, a sales job.
Yeah.
So long hours and high stress levels. But I used to just, my evenings, weekends would all be dedicated towards this and just my own self-development and learning. And then decided, 2018, to leave. Take the jump.
Was it scary?
It wasn't really, because I think I was leading up to it.
Okay.
So it wasn't scary, but I think once I'd actually left and found myself with no job, no structure,
right.
It was interesting because I actually went away for a month immediately afterwards, because I had a really challenging year that year. I'd lost my dad as well. So I thought, right, time out. So I took a month out, went away, came back, and then all these questions started to surface about, oh my God, I've lost my identity. I've been in HP for so long, and I've done this job, and who am I? So all that started going on in my head for a few weeks, and I got over that and thought, okay, I am here. This is me. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm about. And then I started to get a lot more clearer on my business as well, because whilst I was working, it was quite broad. It was just personal development and coaching, and that's what I was helping people with. And then beginning of last year, I started to think, okay, I want to kind of niche this down a bit more and be more specific. And that's where I identified personal branding in person as something that I wanted to focus on. I sort of looked at what I could bring to the table, the different skill sets I had, and what I enjoyed delivering the most.
Yeah.
So coaching for me is what I love. That's my passion. But the areas or topics around that I could support people with fell into the realms of personal branding for people in person.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people now doing personal branding in online. So it's about how to have your brand online, so your social media profile, that kind of thing. Whereas I'm about how to do it in person, how you show up at work, and the way you come across. So that's kind of how I got there.
Wow, what a journey. And it seems it sort of started from you developing yourself personally, and it sort of moved into that. So you've done the groundwork in yourself first. Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. I did a lot of personal development work. I did a number of programs and trainings with Tony Robbins. Flew out to the US to do some stuff with him, and I think it was Amsterdam he was in as well. So I went and did programs with him, and obviously the professional speaking, more NLP, mindset work. Yes, where we met at PSA. So lots and lots of different things to kind of get to where I am now.
And sort of, what's been the hardest thing about running your own business?
The hardest thing would be having that discipline. This is the interesting, because I've always been pretty disciplined ever since I studied. But now I've been finding it a lot harder to maintain that discipline. I had a colleague recently ask me about, how am I getting on, and I'd worked with him for a number of years, and he's like, oh my God, you used to be so disciplined. What's happened? I was like, I know. So a discipline around your structure in your day, because for I guess several reasons. One is with a job, you've got to be online by a certain time. You've got your meetings and things, and you're accountable to other people. You're accountable to yourself. So I think that's part of it. But also there's so much to do. Particularly when you're starting and you're not in a position to just outsource and have a huge team. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be thinking about so many things. So what I tend to find is, I say, right, I'm going to focus on doing this for a couple of hours, but then in my mind, my brain's going off to something else, thinking, I need to be doing that. Yeah. And so it's very easy to get into overwhelm. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm finding. So I have to kind of bring myself back again. And I'm getting a lot better at it now. But I think that's one of the big challenges. And the other one obviously is money, because I've always had a regular salary coming in, and now it's more peaks and troughs. It's as and when you get clients, as and when you win business. So very different. different mindset.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to both of those, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's the best thing about running your business, your own business?
The best thing is that you can be creative. You've got your own ideas. You can try things. It's a different environment in terms of the other people who are doing similar things. So I like the fact that I've got kind of a network of connections, friends, colleagues in both areas, because it's different mindsets completely and you can learn from both. So I really appreciate that. And the freedom to do what I want to do, which is just, that's huge.
You mentioned there about you and having a network. How important is that? Because obviously running your own business, it can be lonely at times. People may think about a business, think, oh, I'm just going to be by myself. How important is having a network? And, where do you go for support?
For me, it is important to have a network, because I know when I was still in my job and I was doing what I was doing, sometimes I'd start questioning what I was doing because I felt like I was on my own and nobody else was doing it. But then I would go to an event which was more business or entrepreneurial related. And then in my mind, I thought, oh no, other people are out there doing it, so it's okay. Yeah. So having that support of people who understand where you're at and the challenges that you're facing. Some of them are going through them. Some of them have been there and can support you. That is huge. That's really important.
Yeah. And how do you overcome challenges? And because ultimately, in anything we do, there are barriers, there are challenges, obstacles. How do you overcome those that come your way?
How do I overcome them? I know I'm very resilient, and I will keep pushing and pushing to get past the challenges. And sometimes I just have to take a step back. And that's where all the personal development work comes in, because for me, I tune into myself then as to what's going on. So why do I feel an overwhelm, or why am I struggling with something? Because my belief, I think there's two schools of thought in business that I've come across. One is the approach, which is very much the hustle, and you've got to be working 24/7, doing all these different things, and you've got to be seen out on social media every day and all that kind of stuff. And that's fine, and that works for some people. And there are a lot of people who are successful by doing that. But that's not what I want. That's not what I signed up to. So I'm very much of the other school of thought, which is do what feels right. Tuning into your intuition. And when I talk about doing what feels right, I mean in terms of your business, concepts, what you're doing, who you want to work with. For me, that's about going with your gut as to the kind of people or the kind of business, the kind of programs and services, and do it that way. So it's interesting. You get a lot of people, I'm sure you've experienced this, with all their ideas, and this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And actually for me, it's okay, because that's when I get myself into a bit of, oh my God, I then start stressing.
Right.
And then I start feeling like, oh my God, and that's where all the challenges start to come up. And that's when I'll stop and I'll check in with myself. Okay, why is this becoming a challenge? What is actually going on here for me that I'm finding something so difficult? And then as I check in with myself, as feeling into it, is this the right thing for me to be doing? So I've learned from that. And now what I tend to do is I hear what everyone's saying and all the advice everyone's giving, but I will pick and choose what resonates with me and what feels right.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing with challenge is resilience, focus, determination. Those are the three things.
Resilience, focus, and determination. Key things. As you were speaking there, I guess when you were saying about doing what's right for you and your business, I guess that's the importance of knowing the vision for your business or why you're starting and what, because then everything else sort of links into that. Then you're not dragged away by the other opinions.
Yes. And it's not necessarily about you've got to have this huge detailed business plan either. Because again, two schools of thought on that. And because I tend to go more with my intuition, I have a very good idea of what I want that to look like. But I think if it's too detailed, if you're too focused on that, you run the risk of missing out on opportunities that you hadn't thought about.
It's true. It's very true.
So there's things that have come up for me, opportunities which, if I had a business plan, they wouldn't have been on my business plan. And then I would have thought, well, no, that's distraction. Keep focused this way. But actually, that can open up doors and new things that you wouldn't have even dreamt about doing. So I think it's still important to keep that kind of flexibility in what you're doing.
Yeah. Flexible focus. Yeah. Brilliant. No, that's very good. So how
was that? I think
adaptability is important, and that's key, definitely. How have you found marketing your business? So obviously there's difference. You have a job. You just have clients or people that you work for. When you move into your own business, how have you found getting that exposure? You mentioned there obviously that some people are on social media all the time. That doesn't necessarily work for you, but what's been your approach in marketing and getting clients?
For me, in my ideal world, and I think this is probably true for many people, is wanting to be that person who gets referred to, and it's through word of mouth and recommendation. What I have been doing so far in the main is speaking to my network, my warm network from my career.
Right.
And it's only in the last maybe 5 years I've realized the importance of having that network. I took it for granted because I'm quite a sociable, friendly person. So I do tend to stay in touch with a lot of people. And as a consequence, there are a lot of people now that I can pick up the phone to and ask for help. That was a challenge. I never used to, I didn't do asking for help. I figure stuff out myself. Whereas I realized having a business, you kind of have to, otherwise you're really stuck. And it was nice to realize that most people like to help. So yeah, it is reaching out to my network, in terms of in the professional world where I was before, the career and the corporate side, I guess, for introductions, recommendations, who do they know, that kind of thing. And using LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I tend to focus more than anything.
Yeah. And that's key what you were saying there, because there's obviously people listening have business idea, they feel a bit stuck in their job, they want to leave, but the importance of not completely burning your bridges, because you never know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. And what do you wish someone told you before you went out on your own and started your business? What do you wish someone actually told you?
Oh gosh. What do I wish someone had told me? The thing is, people told me, there were people who advised me, you should stay in your job. You've got a really good job. You're doing really well. It's really hard out there. So I kind of knew it was going to be challenging. Right. But my take on that was, what's the worst that could happen? Right? That's the question I ask myself is, okay, go out, try it. What's the worst that could happen? If I don't enjoy it, if it doesn't work for whatever reason, then I'll go get a job. Yeah. So I think what's the best or the most important, I think it's probably more about the marketing side of it, because I had an awareness of it, but I don't think I appreciated the extent of how much we need to pretty much self-promote to get known in the first place, to then be able to be in that position where people start to recommend you.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And that's key, isn't it? Because that's self-promotion. And a lot of people struggle with that. But when you've got your own business, it's something you kind of have to get used to.
Yeah, and definitely. And it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I started on this journey, so about 6 years ago, I was not on Facebook.
Okay.
And I kept being told, you need to get on Facebook, you need to post. And I said, no, I don't want to. And they said, well, people are going to go look for you and they want to see a profile of just in terms of with Facebook being more of a personal thing, just to see what you're about, who you are, and get an idea of you. being a real person. So I started slowly posting, but even now I'm very mindful of what I post.
Yeah, and I'm the same, to be honest. I don't subscribe to the need to put every bit of my life on social media. You know, I think you can be sociable enough that people get to know you, because we know people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And that gives people that sort of idea that they know you a bit more when you're on social media, without putting your whole life on there. So I get it completely. I get it. And I think it's important to know which platform works for you as well, because you said there about LinkedIn works for your business.
Definitely. And I mean, you know, again, everyone says you should be on both, and you should be on Twitter and Instagram. I don't have an Instagram account. I have a Twitter account, but I barely use it. I thought, let me just focus on one thing and just make that work. And if I look at my network, or my connections rather, on LinkedIn versus Facebook, the people on LinkedIn are my ideal customers. The people on Facebook are more the people in this space, in the entrepreneurial space. They're not my ideal customer. So why would I invest loads of time promoting to people who are not, and the connections that I've got? So I focus on where my ideal clients are.
And that's key. No, brilliant. So Leila, please, 3 pieces of advice for the women listening who they have an idea, maybe a project, something they want to start and they've been reluctant to. What 3 pieces of advice would you give to that lady who wants to start the business but hasn't done so far?
Wants to start but hasn't done so. Number 1 would be get really clear on what it is you want to be doing, and what that outcome looks like. So don't do it for the sake of it, because if you're putting 100% into something you really don't enjoy, you're going to struggle to make a success of it. So you want to be doing something that you love, that you are passionate about. So really take the time to get clear, because I've seen people try to make money doing something that they couldn't give a damn about, but they're just doing it because they want to make money. And it's not, for me, that's not the way to do it. So that would be the first thing, is having that clarity. Number 2 would be do your groundwork, do your due diligence. So once you got clear on what you want to do, then, you know, speak to people, understand what is required. So speak to your potential kind of ideal clients to get a feel for whether this is something that's tangible. Are other people also doing something similar and making a success of it? Therefore, it does work. So speaking to people in your sort of ideal client space, but also speaking to people who are doing something similar or who have a business, to really understand what is required. Because I think, again, if you don't have the bigger picture, for example, that if you want to be a coach, let's say, or a trainer, you've still got to understand about operations, about marketing, about delivery, about branding, about finance, and, you know, everything else that comes with it. So have a realistic idea of what you're getting yourself into. And I think number 3 would be take the leap. But when I say take the leap, so have the courage to take the leap and ask yourself what's the worst that could happen. But at the same time, take the leap. It's like a calculated risk,
right?
As in, you've done your due diligence and you've got some savings in the bank, right? Because I remember, again, when I started this journey, I had so many people tell me, why don't you just leave, you should leave your job. So people in the entrepreneurial business space, just leave your job and just like, and I'm like, why would I do that? Because and again, I've seen people who've done it or found themselves in that situation without choice. And then again, they're trying to do something just to make the money.
Right.
So they're coming from a place of desperation.
Yeah.
And again, the energy behind that, when you want to run a business, I don't feel is like it's not the right thing to be doing.
Right.
You want it to be congruent. So you know, buy yourself time by, you know, saving some money or having a what's the right word, like a backup plan.
Yeah.
Or if you've got other streams of income, like if you've got property income or something like that, or you trade, something like that, where you've got other income as well to kind of support you.
Yeah.
So at least for the first 6 to 12 months, you've got that. So you don't go into that place of stress and frustration and urgency and desperation, because it's not, people can smell that a mile off.
Yeah.
And you will struggle to do business and be successful.
Definitely. Great advice there. I mean, all of it was good, but I loved what you said about the due diligence. Speak to people that are already doing what you want to do. I think that's really important, because I think sometimes entrepreneurs, especially people, we get worried about someone else doing what we want to do. And there's that sort of fear of competition. Well, actually, no, speak to people, because they're in the space that you want to get to. I always encourage people, go to people that are where you want to be and learn from them. So I think that was a great piece of advice, and definitely about having backup plan, having savings in the bank, so that you've got a lifeline, because the reality is you may not make money straight away. I mean, very unlikely that you will. There's a lot of groundwork when you start a business, and so you've got to be able to live while you're building. Yeah. So they're great. Thank you so much, Leila. I think so many bits of great advice, nuggets there for our listeners and watchers. And I really appreciate you taking your time out of your very busy schedule to come and speak to us. The last thing you want to say to how can people connect with you? And you mentioned a book. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
Yeah, so my book is called Success Redefined: How to Leverage Your Natural Talents to Be Limitless. And that, as I said, was published about 5 years ago now. That's available on Amazon. It's also available on my website, which is leilasingh.com. You can get a free download of it there. I'm also looking to publish a second book probably towards the end of this year on personal branding, because now that's what I'm all about, and that's what I'm, looking to build up in terms of my business is understanding, helping people. So career professionals, as well as team leaders, managers, executives who have teams, to understand the importance of personal branding in the workplace. Because coming from that space, I realized that particularly if you work for large companies, people almost take for granted the fact that brand is the brand they work for, and therefore that's okay. Yeah. And I think that environment is, on that landscape of employees, is becoming so competitive now.
Right.
We need to be able to stand out and have our own brand, so people remember us for what we stand for, and not just because we worked for a company. So it's getting that message out there.
Excellent. Well, there you have it. Once again, thank you so much. And thank you all for listening and watching. And stay tuned for another episode. We'll have another great guest telling her story of how she went from employee to boss. Take care. Thank you for listening to Ideas to Implementation. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time.